I will. There.
All right.
Okay. So hi, everybody. So this is Laurent Bonnois, who I don't even know when I met you. I met you in like 2009 or something like that, I want to say. 2010, something like that, I think.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Started buying wine from you, and you had really awesome wines, and it was lots of fun to buy wine from you, and you were a nice person, and you were the first person that I bought wine from outside of T. Edward, and I think Devonish was your first like wholesale customer, like outside of like the New York restaurant market and stuff, right? So it was this weird, because of Brendan Pringle, because Brendan knew you and tracked you down and stuff, and so now here we are. Here we still are.
It's a YouTube.
Yeah. But anyway, so talking about Domaine de Chevalerie today, I've got, I think you all have the lists. So there's Pumilo 2015, Galichet 2015, Bretesh 2014, and then Domaine de Chevalerie 2014. Where, there we go. I will pin you. So I remember visiting them. I think it was 2012 that I came over and visited you, and we went to Domaine de Chevalerie, and I remember meeting Pierre and wandering around in the cellars down there and stuff like that. But that was like 10 years ago, and so my memory is pretty fuzzy about all of it. So could you sort of run us through Domaine de Chevalerie and their history?
Absolutely. First of all, it's the oldest family-owned vineyard in Bouegueil. Mm-hmm. So there are now 15 generations of winemakers. Although at the time it was middle age, so they didn't own the land. But Chevalerie means knighthood. So at the time there were castles, there still are castles, but a lot of knights, like horse people, need to rest their horses, and that's where the actual building was for. So they kept the name La Chevalerie, all right? And the people who were on the land were, of course, not slaves, but they didn't own the land, and they were already Calos family. So we're talking about like 1600, late 1600, so 400 years of family-owned vineyard. Then it's a fairly large estate in terms of, like, here we have it's a small appellation, and we have like a lot of small people who have like 1 or 2 acres or 10 acres, but they own 80 acres of the land, so it's fairly large, and they are working in a biodynamic way. So they started to be, so Pierre Calot, the father you met, took over his dad in the 80s and started to work more like a organic way. After the wars, after the Second World War, a lot of people in France use a lot of chemicals. We had to feed a whole new world. So chemicals started to arrive. So for like 30 years, we used a lot of chemicals in France. And in the 80s, there was a rebound of like people wanted to go back before that, the way they worked before. So Pierre was one of this person. So he took over the vineyard in the 80s. I mean, started to work with his dad in the 80s and started to work more like an organic way. But didn't want to be recognized for that or do a lot of paperwork. So just that's the way he was working the land. The kids came after Emmanuel and Stephanie came joining him in the 90s, and they started to have a new approach, being certified organic and even going further as a biodynamic estates. So they started to be organic in 2008, I believe, like certified, and 2012 biodynamic. So you've seen the land is just like one big building around just like vines, and all what's interesting about their land is they own all the lands around them, so they get affected by the other people who use chemicals, so it's quite important because that could be an impact. And since they own the land for a long time, they really, I mean, when you talk to Pierre or Stephanie, they're just like, they're really so into the land and protecting what they have and protecting this for the future. So that was super important. Just on the more like less happy note, Pierre died in 2014, just get retired. So it was a big drama there. And as you know, Stephanie died last year. She was like not even 40. So it was like a big, when Stephanie, she was full of life. So there was big drama. So now it's Emmanuel, the brother, and the other sister, Laurie, who are taking care of the estates. And I think that's about it. So the Bouegueil area, it's not a dramatic land. It's more hilly. We have the river, and the Loire River goes from like down to Saint-Pourçain to Muscadet. So we have different type of landscape. But here we have a lot of like small hills. And mostly we have, so we used to have the Atlantic here. So here it's a lot of, underneath, a lot of chalk, limestone, and recovered by flint and sand. Voilà, that's about that. That makes also the originality of the area. It's the mix of different terroir within very close area. So you can cross the street and you can have just like sand, or you can have just like a little bit sand, clay, and a lot of chalk, limestone. And so it's very interesting in terms of like a terroir, as we call it here. And I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Did you have any question?
I vaguely remember, like at some point reading, does Domaine de Chevalerie, do they sell off some of their grapes? Do they farm, but they sell some, but they keep the grapes from particular vineyards, so they're not making all of the wine there themselves? They sell off some of the grapes that they.
On certain year, if the yields can, if you're allowed to, if you can, they can sell some wine. They did sell some wines from few particular years where the yields were, the vats were full, and they sold usually not to the négoce, but to friends that they want to make like a special cuvée. I think like Domaine Les Têtes that Zev represents buys some grapes from time to time to them. Okay. But the past few years we had like a lot of freeze, and the vats were pretty much empty. Okay. So it's cool. But they did in the past sold, not to négoce, I know.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Right. To friends, basically.
Okay. Yeah. And then we should mention the cellar, because the cellar underneath the winery is a big deal. It's big. It's a huge cellar.
I recommend you go to the domaine-de-la-chevalerie.com and you see some pictures. For me, it's not because I live here, but it's the most beautiful cellar I haven't seen. It's like a hectare big, large, like 2.5 acres, and it's on limestone. So we are about 20 meters under the ground. I mean, you've seen it. It's beautiful. It's very well laid out. Those caves were dug to build the castle before. So all the chalk from the castles and the houses come from those cellars. That's what they were actually made for at the beginning. They were just like digging, and then they used it for wine purposes. But that's the original thing. But it's fantastic when you go there. Like, I highly recommend to come here and visit it. I will come with you.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's beautiful, and there's parts that are well lit, but it's so big that it just goes on off into the dark, and you don't see the end of it. I remember.
You don't want to go there.
Yeah.
There are places that just hide wines from visitors. So.
Yeah. All right, so jumping into the wines, so we've got 4 wines,
Okay.
2 2015s and then 2 2014s here.
So yeah, we start with Pueblo 15.
Okay, yeah. So these are younger vines, right?
Alors, Pueblo is not that young. It's like 35 to 40 years old, which
Okay.
is
For
because
some
they're
wineries,
younger.
that's old. Yeah. In California,
Well, in
parts
the-
of California, that's old. Yeah.
Yeah. So for them, it's not. It's old. It's getting old. So just it's an average, of course, because plant like some vines dies and you have to replace that. So there are some vines that are more 50 years old and some are 10 years old, of course. So it's just an average. So so here we are on the top of the hill. So we are near the forest, and it's a good slack of a sand, and then underneath you have a clay and limestone. So we have like, so what's interesting is the vine is going to nourish itself with different type of soil, knowing that like sand doesn't keep the water. So for a dry year, for example, it's difficult for the vine to not survive, but actually do something. Whereas like the limestones it retains a lot of water. So it's very interesting to have limestone in your field. And so all the vines that we're going to test tonight goes into old oak, so 300 liters barrels usually. Depending on the year, of course, and depending on the age of the vines, they'll set to 6 to 8 to a year in barrels. So that give you a little ideas. So we're close to the forest. The forest brings more humidity, or at least like on a drier also, and it keeps away the mostly of the wind. But we're higher too, and so in higher forest it's not that much. So compared to the others, you see a lot of freshness in the wine too. So you can test it if you want. So 15 was like a classic year in the Loire, although very dry during summer. We didn't have much water, and if I remember well, the harvest happened a little earlier than previous years. So all those wines are like 5 to 6 years old already, but you can see it's very vibrant, very fresh. You know, it's not tired at all.
Yeah.
It's full of like bright fruits, like currants. It's delicious. It's very lively. Great acidity too.
Yeah, it's got really nice acidity. It's fresh and bright. It's structured though. It's like organized and to a point. It's structured. The tannins do a great job of balancing out the acidity. It's not. It's pretty, and it's fun to drink. It's delicious, but it's not like a light wine that you don't pay attention to.
No. No, the balance is very, very right here. It's not like your palate doesn't get tired. It's just like you refresh your palates. It's actually very long too.
Do you know, does Pueblo usually ripen before some of the other vineyards because of the sand, or does it ripen at about the same time?
Alors, I know that they start with usually the lower slope.
Okay.
Which makes the Franco de Port diptyque.
Yeah.
And then Pueblo is next.
Okay.
In terms of harvest.
Yeah.
You know, so it's and compared to the others, it could be like a week or 10 days difference between harvest, and that's on the early side, definitely.
Okay. And you were saying, so then this spends like, was it like 6 to 8 months in barrel, and then they bottle it, and then it just rests in bottle until
I
it's
think this
ready?
will be more 6 to 8 months
Okay.
in barrels.
Yeah.
Doesn't see any new oak. It's
Right.
like all oak that you saw in the cellar. They stay in the cellar also. That's important.
Mhm.
So like natural temperature control with right humidity. So it's it has time to age and just like to settle and get together. After, in terms of like sulfites, they usually add sulfite when it's necessary, and usually at the bottling, that's all, and very little, you know, so just to keep the wine in good shape to go to do his trip.
Right.
And they still sell that at the cellar, so that means that they release the wines very late.
Mm-hmm.
They want some aging in the bottle. They're not trying to get like when the wine is too young, like too much tannins and harshness. So they really take their time. So that's why also the wines is like delicious right now. You just received that, right? Like 3 months ago. Yeah. Delicious. Love it. Yeah. Great with food too. Cabernet Franc, of course. Mm-hmm. I'll go with like lighter style food, like any white meat, like pork or chicken, will go well with that.
I'm looking to see if I can find my pictures from Domaine de Chevalerie just to have in the background. But anyway, yeah. All right. So Galichet. So okay, and Galichet, what we have is the same vintage here, 2015.
Yeah, we stay on the 15, which is nice. So Galichet is older in terms of average age of wine. We're closer to 50 years old here. Whereas we were at the top of the hill for Pueblo, we are mid slope here. So it's still like a little sandy, but with clay and flint. Same winemaking style. Ah ben voilà. Wow, yeah. Beautiful.
There's the cellar. Wow. Kind of dark, but yeah.
Looks like a movie almost. Like a setup. But the way they light it too is great. Oh. Now here you go. Yeah.
There's the entrance down underneath the house.
Here's Pierre and
Pierre and Stephanie.
Yeah. So do you have the year of that? When did you come?
2012.
12. Here you go.
Yeah, March 2012. Yeah. So where was Galichet on the slope?
So it's a mid slope. So we're just like just next to the domain. So we said like sand and clay and clay with little flint on it too. So 50 years old, same winemaking. So they of course do the hand harvest. They put the grapes in small boxes so they don't get crushed. Okay, and after no entrance, nothing in there, just like very natural way to make money.
Do they destem the grapes, or do they just go straight into the press? They're destemmed.
Depends. Like a year, like 2005, for example, where it was very alcoholic, like high sugar level. Mm-hmm. They tend to bring some freshness, and the stem can bring freshness into the wine. So it depends on the year. Mostly they distem.
Okay.
But it could happen that they need some freshness in the wine. Every year is very different. So every year you have to just improvise, especially with those dramatic years that we've been having these days, like where you don't know, you don't have a vintage that you already know, and it's like a lot of improvisation, I would say. So
yeah.
So it's a little darker in color, still very bright for a wine that's 6 years old. Delicious, like red fruits, like black currants, like very tingy on your tongue. And super lively and very long. Lovely. There's a bit of a saltiness that you can get also at the end on the palate. Pierre used to say that some wines that he makes were great with oysters, where you could say, whoa, red wine with oysters. But the little saltiness that you get could actually go with the oysters. So interesting.
I'm going to try that. Definitely going to try that with this. It's interesting. I get like there's dark, there's juicy sort of like black raspberry sort of flavors, but I get something it's almost like mocha or chocolate or something in the back of the mid palate too. Like along with the fruit, it makes me think of like a cooked dessert or something like that. There's more than it's deeper and more multidimensional than the Pueblo was.
There's also dark meat in it. It's interesting. Yeah. So same, like 6 years old. It's like super fresh. Like you could think like it's like a fairly new wines. So Cap Franc is just like amazing for that.
These are, yeah.
These
are amazing. How long does the initial fermentation take usually for them? Because is it down in that subterranean cellar or is it up in the winery?
No, it happens above.
Okay.
You know, big building that you come on the left. It's mostly stainless steel. Before we used to have use cement in the area. But like with modernity and progress, stainless steel were great because you could actually control the temperature. So that's a very plus thing. And so they're all in stainless steel, and usually 2 to 3 weeks, I will say. Maybe for the youngest, like for Franco de Port, shorter maceration, you know. Although the fermentation is not finished, but they don't want to extract too much, especially for young vines. You don't want to extract too much tannins. For those wines, more like 3 weeks, also depending on the year, but you still need concentration. But you don't want to get to a point that you get too much tannins from the grapes. Although after the maturation helps all the wines to get together. And here's a good example also of great balance. I mean, like there's acidity, there's tannins, there's fruits, but nothing is like one way or the other. It's super well structured, I think. So, and also that's for them, it's the knowledge of the every area and doing the proper work for proper area.
Right. Yeah. These are the best put together, the most integrated, balanced wines I think that I've tasted from Bouegueil. They're the best integrated, balanced, like flavor profile. They're the best made Cabernet Francs I think that I've ever had. and I always wonder about things like that. I always wonder about like, why are these better than someone else that's right nearby? But I hadn't really thought about that. That a lot of these vineyards, they've been farming them for so many generations that they have a very, very, very good understanding of how this particular, how the Galichet or the Chevalerie vineyard, how it behaves differently from others, and what you know, sort of farming wise, what makes a big difference to it.
Absolutely. Also, they take their time. Like Cab Franc, when I started in the wine business, was known for a wine that's like has to be super light, low in alcohol, and like has to have a green pepper taste.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Right.
kind of like, wow, do I want to drink green pepper? I'm not sure about that. But because a lot of people were harvesting very early, didn't want to lose the harvest
Mm-hmm.
because of the rain or different like problems. So they lost maturity in the wine, which you get like this greenness into that. So they do take risks sometimes and like wait, and they are not the first people to start their harvest, let's say. I see them around. Some other people start their harvest way before them. So they just like, they really want maturity in the grapes, and at the end it makes a big difference. So that's why also you can, the sense of like well-balanced wine, it's a great example. Where are we going?
Bretash now. So now 2014 Bretash.
I was about to suggest the other, but is it too late?
No, it's not too late at all. No, we can do the Domaine de Chevalerie first.
Okay. So 14. For us was
and just to make clear to everybody, so we're pouring bottle number 4 now, because all the little bottles are numbered. So bottle number 4, 2014 Chevalerie.
Chevalerie. Yeah. Excellent. For us, 2014 was a difficult vintage because it's very. We didn't have much winter. Then the vine started acting early, but then we had the crappiest spring. So a lot of rain, cold. So then the vines kind of like stopped doing their work and just like, you know, progress very little by little. Even during summer, we had some rain and cold weather. So it was that not fun summer. But then we had the luck of having a great Indian summer. So during autumn, it was very sunny, long and dry. So here we say September makes the wine, and this proves it, because at the end we had a great harvest. So Chevalerie, just above the main building, it's so we are still on sand, clay, and flint. So mid slope. We're close to Galichet, so pretty much the same, but older vines. Same, of course, vinification style. In my style, a little longer in vats, in barrels, but we're on the same style, except that the vines are older. So it's still like, so it's a dark wine for 14. And so compared to 15, there are like bigger wines also. It's Chevalerie also, older vines. You see, it's like more ample. Also, there's more, like the softness is here, but you get like more like real like big like fruits like cherry or raspberry. and a bit flowery too. And the tannins are very present too.
It's so much deeper and more serious than the Galichet. It feels so different. Is it? It's just the age of the vines, like is
age
that
and vintage, I would say. We had a great like long Indian summer when they harvest the grapes were the full maturity. And so you get like a really like a bigger wine, like a more, as you say, serious. Although not the other one are not that they're not serious, but this is a step above, and that's probably due also to the vintage also. 14 was a very like amazing vintage in our area. So although we thought it would be not a great vintage, but the whole like the end of the season made the wine amazing. So it's delicious.
Shari just texted, what's the age of the vines in the Chevalerie vineyard?
Chevalerie, we are 65 years old now. I mean, average, of course.
Yeah. Right.
So also that means that 60 years old vines don't produce that much.
As much.
Also, you know, I mean, less than the others. You have to take care of them, although they've been replaced little bit. So there are 80 years old vines, but also there are 40 years old vines in there too. But the average is 60, 65. So you can get also like, it's the fact that it's older vines makes also this, the grapes more elegant, I would say.
I had no idea. I have always thought that the Domaine de Chevalerie, that the Chevalerie vineyard was like clay over limestone, and that the Galichet vineyard was, you know, sand and gravel, and was clay, but also it's with gravel in it and stuff. And so I always thought that was why they tasted different, because the Galichet vineyard always tastes a little bit, it's not as integrated, it's not as tightly wound, it's not as concentrated as Chevalerie. In drinking them over the years, Chevalerie has always wowed me with how concentrated and tightly wound, but integrated and beautiful and powerful it is, how it balances that beauty and power, and has more like, it has a little bit more like mineral, like graphite, like there's the tannins are different of it. It just blows me away that the terroir, the soils are pretty similar, and it's the age of the vines, and you know, and maybe they're letting it spend a little bit more time in wood, and they're aging it longer and stuff like that, but that's the difference is so small between them. That's crazy.
And they're really, in terms of like terroir, they're close to each other, so it's not that they can get different type of weather. It's definitely the edge. So maybe Galichet in 15 years will be the same than Chevalerie. Who knows?
Yeah.
What I mean. But but definitely the edge of the vine in that case makes a huge difference. So it's a beautiful wine.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, now we can do Bretèche.
Okay.
So we're still in the same vintage, same like mid slope. except that like this is like 25 years old average vine, so it's very young for them.
Okay.
So you're gonna see a big difference in terms of elegance also. You see also the tannins are more present.
Wow, I didn't know that these vines were that young. And this is farther away, right? Where is this? Is this like at the?
We are mid slope, just
Yep.
just next to at the same style, same soil. So
Okay.
we are although there's more limestone in this one too, compared to the other two.
Okay.
So that's also a big difference. You'll get the more like freshness and dryness of the limestone.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, less sand and more limestone in this one. Also affect the tannins. You see at the end, definitely a wine to eat with.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a real presence of tannins in there, and that's also due to the fact to the age of the vines.
Mm-hmm. It's more tannic because of the younger vines.
Younger vines, yeah, and also the presence of more presence of the limestone.
Limestone, yeah. So it's still clay. It's still clay over limestone, but is like it just like.
Usually you have like 1 meter to 2 meters of clay.
Yeah.
But the vines goes very deep. I mean, you see when you go in their cellar.
Yeah, you see it coming through the roof.
Coming through. So and then there's limestone, like real limestone, compared to the other two. So that's why also you get like this like more austerity kind of like, and the edge of the vines, I would say.
Okay. So the limestone holds water. What else? Why does the limestone make it more austere? How does the limestone like give it more?
There's a lot of minerality also. You know, and I'm not a chemical expert, but usually limestone brings like a lot of minerality and maybe some like bitterness or like the more baldy, I will say. And there's maybe less in this Bretèche. There's less different type of soil, just like usually limestones. It's just like one direction, I would say. So whereas like in the other one, when you have like clay, sand, and little flint, or you know, you can like vines get different minerals, different food. So
right. In different parts of that vineyard, yeah. So your Galichet is a mix of vines that were exposed to different things. And
those are very close vineyards. They're like touching each other, but the soil is different.
Yeah,
you know, interesting that, and they didn't invent that. The Chevalerie, they just like years and years of like winemaking, just like get them to know that type of soil is like that. And also the name of every lots, every area is a different name because it's a different type of soil.
Different soil.
Name. So that's why we're finishing like this one, because it's a
right.
Just like the tannins are very present. So I'll definitely eat with that. Like we're more like on maybe a red meat. And
it smells more like aromatically herbal. Like there's an edge to it. Like it's like a little bit not green, not that green pepper thing, you know, that people talked about, but it's a little bit of like spruce or like wintergreen, like.
Well, I have like both. I have bitterness and sweetness to it
Mhm.
at the same time. Maybe some we call zon, this candy. It's a licorice
Yeah,
based
yeah,
candy, you know? So
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, licorice, yeah, like black currant.
Licorice, yeah.
Mhm.
Hello,
It's still
Laurent.
young. Hey,
Hey, we've been here the whole time, but just
Hiding.
hiding. Um, it's really great to, hi, hello, it's good to see your face again.
and
But we had a question because we've been doing a lot of this sort of discussion about the minerals in wine, right? And thinking about how texturally and structurally they're informing wine, and obviously it's impossible to like physically correlate them to the wine, but we all know it's there. We talk about it all the time, right? And one of the things we've noticed lately is one of the things that is very perceivable and measurable is acidity levels, and it seems like there's a correlation with alkali soils like limestone, which actually you have almost the opposite effect on the vineyards. It seems that the deeper and longer something is living in limestone, the higher acidity it can achieve, for whatever reason, whatever the pH is happening. And it was really cool to see that in you kept saying the word freshness, which is what I would use to describe something that still has some
minerality is tough to, like, it's not even something you test, minerality.
course.
So you said freshness, you try to find like adjective, but I'll say freshness. It's something. Yeah. So I think it's definitely minerality. Maybe in the white wine you can get more minerality sense, but in red it's difficult, especially that people don't expect something to be mineral when it's red.
Right.
But freshness is a great, it's just like it does like wake up your palate, right. in a sense, just like, it's just that you don't get bored, or your tanks start to be flat, or it's just like it wakes up your palates and you want another drink, you want another test of it. It's just like, that's the idea, but definitely, yeah. That'd be interesting to do some research about that, how it does affect.
Yeah, it was great to taste those all together. To just do that, we don't do that too often, to have a whole, just parcel, unless we're visiting somebody. It's like it's cool, very cool.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Great. Oh, you're welcome. That's great. I hope you can come next time.
We have several rain checks. We'll be back. We'll be back before you know.
Yeah.
But we'll get our special, all our meds together, all our shots in a row.
Although technology, it's amazing that we can do that. I'm amazed that you just like test the same wine in different locations. So that's awesome. So, but I was at the Chevalerie today to get some balls, and the guy was laughing because he doesn't even know how to turn on his computer. And when I explained to him, he's like, "What? What do you mean?" Like, so he was laughing about that. So I think it's great.
Necessity is the mother of invention. I never thought of doing this until I had to do this, and then I was like, this is actually really awesome. I can get Laurent, I can get you in France, in the Loire, and we can taste these wines at the same time and talk about them. This is kind of cool.
I like it better when I'm with you guys, but
yeah,
it's great.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
The wines are amazing.
They do taste amazing. They always taste amazing. I wanted to point out this is only the fourth time in the history of Devonish that I've gotten my hands on older vintages of Chevalerie. There was some that came into the country last year, and I got that, and then the last time before that, they released some. And I remember we did a vertical tasting at Vineyard. That was like 6 or 7 years ago. And the time before that, I think I got like 3 cases of Bretagne and 5 cases of Chevalerie, something like that, from the 90s, and that was it. So it's only been 4 times in my life, in my career, that I've managed to get my hands on these wines in this way. It's really cool.
You and New York are the only one. So good for you.
Well, I'm very appreciative of getting to have these wines. They blow my mind every time. Yeah,
they don't release that much, so that's why. And usually I call you. So
yeah. Well, if you can pass it on to Emmanuel and and Laurie, that they like these wines are they redefine like what Cabernet Franc and what the Loire Valley is when people taste them. So I really appreciate them and what they do.
excellent.
And the Bretache, I can't get over. I'm tasting it, and it tastes more angular to me. Like it's more angular. It is a little bit more tannic, but it's more edgy. It's like, I don't necessarily want to call it more rustic, but it's just like a wine that's a little bit more sort of a little more aggressive, a little bit more grippy and stuff. But its character and its personality are different.
Definitely, the age of the vine is makes a big difference here, I would say. So,
but
I will ask.
Yeah, it's really cool to taste these in this way, because I've always thought of younger vines produce more fruit, and they don't necessarily produce the fruit doesn't have the nuanced flavors that old vines have.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bretache has great concentration and power and energy and stuff. It's not as refined or nuanced maybe right now as the Chevalerie is, but it's not like it's a lighter wine, and I don't know, it's still a delicious, really, really impressive wine to me. And it's cool to see that like, yes, these are significantly younger vines than the Pueblo. Like these are really young vines, but it's a very serious wine. It's still a very serious wine that I imagine with more age, this will get a lot better.
I'll say also with something to eat with.
Yeah.
Compared to the other two, I'd say this definitely needs something to complement like this. So I think it's important for this one to have a friend next to it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
cool.
That's what Pierre will say.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, great. Yeah, Pierre.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Laurent.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Does anybody have any particular questions about Chevalerie and about the wines before we sign off? Cool. I guess not.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Laurent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope to see you soon.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my plan. I'll email you.
We'll see you in the fall.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Ciao.
Au revoir. Au revoir.